Pledge today.
Yeah. How about you? A presentation?
Got an action item.
Action item?
But just in case we have a little cheat sheet for you. So you'll come up, say your name, what department you work in, and how long you've been at Western.
Okay.
When it's done, Director Denstedt sometimes likes to ask questions. They're easy flat questions.
Yeah. I think last time,
Did you watch the tape?
yeah, she did the first for.
She did. Either way is fine.
Okay.
But usually they do it first. I think she was earlier. So.
Patience.
Thank you.
We're gonna miss him. Anyway, you're gonna be great.
How is our? Good morning. What's that? Sitting in the front row. Yeah. I'm not in a conference. That's that. How's everything going for you? Yeah, transition's good. Sorry. That up or whatever, I just went through the script. Some questions she might have. I remember they asked about BAG last time. Right there. But you handled it.
And but I have 1 minute. I can take care of it.
How to do that.
I have 9:30.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and call the regular board meeting for the Western Municipal Water District Board of Directors to order this morning. As a reminder for those folks that are attending in person today, thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate it. However, we'd love to not hear your cell phones going off, so if you could set those on silence or stun, that would be awesome and greatly appreciated. Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead with the roll call. Madam President, or Madam Secretary, if you could go ahead and read in the COVID protocols, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Pursuant to Western Municipal Water District Resolution 3230, in an effort to protect the public health, prevent the spread of COVID-19, and because state and local officials are recommending measures to promote social distancing, the public may view the board meeting virtually via Zoom and in person. This meeting is being live streamed at WMWD.com and will be video recorded for on-demand viewing and broadcasting purposes. As stated on the agenda, members of the public who wish to comment on any item on the agenda may make comments in person, virtually via Zoom, or by submitting comments on the district's website. Comments received on the district's website before 4:30 p.m. June 14th, 2022 will be made part of the board meeting record. For those participating in the Zoom virtual meeting who wish to provide public comments, please indicate such by using the raise hand feature, and we will call on you individually. For those participating by telephone who wish to provide public comment, you may do so by pressing *6 to unmute yourself. Phone callers can also press *9 to activate the raise hand feature. If there is more than one caller, you will be identified and called on one at a time. Any public comment will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. However, the presiding officer reserves the right to reduce the amount of time you'll be allowed to speak to ensure that all members of the public have an opportunity to provide their comment. I will now take roll call for the meeting. Due to the complexity of conducting this meeting by Zoom and telephonically, I will not be taking roll call for staff members or the public at this time. Director Roten.
Here.
Good morning. Director Rizvi.
Good morning, I'm here.
Thank you. Good morning. Director Gardner.
I am present.
Thank you. Good morning. Director Torres.
Good morning. I'm here and on my way.
Good morning. President Dinstedt.
Good morning. I am present.
Thank you. Good morning. President Dinstedt, you do have a quorum today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. At this time, we'll go ahead into the Pledge of Allegiance. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. If you could do an introduction of yourself, please. Tell us what department you work for, and then lead us in the pledge.
Okay. My name is Jennifer McMullen. I am Regulatory Analyst 2 in Regulatory Compliance, which is in the Engineering Department. And I've been here about 4.5 months.
Oh, congratulations. Welcome.
Okay, let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jennifer. We so appreciate you doing that this morning. Okay. At this time, we'll go ahead and move into public comments. This is for any item which is not currently posted on our agenda, which is under the jurisdiction of this agency to be able to act upon. Madam Secretary, have we received any public comments, or has anybody in the room indicated they wish to speak under public comment today?
President Dinstead, I've received no written public comments, and I've had no requests to speak in the at the dais in the room, and there are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you very much.
President Denstead, I do think we have some people that will speak under 7A, just so we're ready, and remember to take public comment at that point.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on from public comment, we'll go ahead and move on to any items to be added to our agenda today. Mr. Miller.
No, they're not.
Legal counsel, good morning. Anything to
morning.
add to our agenda today?
No, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the consent calendar this morning, is there any member of the board who wishes to pull any item?
I would like to pull item 6D just for a comment.
Okay. Pull item 6D, and I would like to pull item 6E. Anybody else? Okay, Madam Secretary, have we received anybody wishing to comment on any item on our consent calendar?
I see no requests.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and start with the pulled items first for discussion. Director Roughton, any comment for 6D?
Yes, I just wanted to, just to make a comment that I know even before I was appointed to the board, that there was always a little bit of a question in my mind, of that question of who is Western Municipal Water District? And out in the public, I think that comes up from time to time, where we're this very large agency that plays a critical role in water, but yet in the district that I represent, they don't receive their bills from us. So there's a lot of, well, what do you mean here? Who is that? You know, kind of a thing. So I just wanted to acknowledge this agenda item and say that I'm excited to, that we are able to be that member agency on behalf of Harupa Community Services District, and that they are, we are executing this agreement to be the pass-through agency from Metropolitan Water to them for their upcoming recycled water project, which I know they have been working toward that goal for many years. I had a friend who served on that board who retired, that was her wish, was to be able to bring in that recycled water and get some of those purple pipes in use and that kind of thing. So I'm excited for them and glad that we can play our role in helping for that to happen.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Mr. Miller, you and I had a discussion about 6E as in Edward. So if you could.
President Dinstead, because we pulled that item, we do need to vote on it.
We can't take it all at once?
The items have been pulled. They cannot be taken at once.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll make the motion to approve item 6D.
I'll second.
All right. We'll go ahead and call for the vote.
We also need to do the balance of
We-
the
Well, that's
consent.
what I was trying to do. I was trying to do the whole
Well,
consent calendar
yeah,
at once.
so that,
Did we vote on the
so
balance?
for a point of order in the future, we can go ahead and take it this way for this meeting, but in the future, when you pull up those items, they should be heard after you vote on the consent calendar. on the
Okay, is
balance
that
and-
because
the
of our new
balance of the
voting
calendar.
system?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I didn't know that it was,
Yeah.
what the, I was trying to do it all at once and be efficient, but all right.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay. All right. So do you want to go ahead and have the vote for 6D then? We have a motion and a second.
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Thank you. Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Risby?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
Director Torres? President Dinstead?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Moving on to 6E.
Okay, I'm
Mr.
ready.
Miller,
I'm
yes.
ready.
I just wanted to hear about this grant application, the dollar amount that was involved in it, what it's going to be going towards, and the timing of this that we expect, if we could
Sure.
just get those little high points so that
Sure.
the public is aware.
Melissa Matlock has been leading this effort for our team, on our grant securing team. Melissa, could you kind of give us those details of this grant application?
Absolutely. Good morning, directors. So Resolution 3231 is for a grant application for the United States Economic Development Agency, Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Program. Now, we are asking for $3 million to fund our sewer force main project over at our Western Water Recycling Facility. This project is total about $7 million, so we're looking at about maybe 40% here. We're capped because of the grant amount asked that we can do. We can't ask for more than really $3 million and expect to get it. This is a federal grant program, so they take a little bit longer to give you your responses. We're probably looking at knowing about early next spring whether or not we've been awarded this opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And with that, is there any other questions about that? I just wanted to make sure that information was out there, that staff work really hard to try to offset our costs for projects, and that we're doing that for taking care of the public, so. Okay.
I'll second.
It's a motion to approve by Director Rizvi and a second by Director Gardner. We'll go ahead and call for the vote, Madam Secretary.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
Director Torres?
Aye.
President Denstedt?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay. Looking to move the balance of the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Director Gardner and a second from Director Torres. Any other comments? Go ahead and call for the vote.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
Director Torres?
Yes.
Director Denstedt?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our action agenda this morning, Mr. Miller will take up 7A.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the approval of an imported water supply and system capacity agreement between Rancho California Water District and Western Municipal Water District. I'll turn it over to Tim for the details of the agreement, but I'd like to take a minute to highlight how valuable this is to Western and to our customers out in Murrieta. And what I like most about this whole effort is that water districts, I think, have this long-earned reputation of being bureaucratic and not working well together. And so this is an example of board members and management and engineering coming together to solve numerous problems in one agreement, or actually not even problems, opportunities to make things better, because we didn't really have problems, but we had an opportunity to assist development, assist two agencies' finances, and deliver developed service less expensively. So a real win-win-win. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim, and he can go through kind of the details of the agreement, and then I think we have a commenter that would like to make public comment.
Thank you, Craig. We do have a PowerPoint on this, and this PowerPoint did go through the engineering committee a couple of months ago. So this is an imported water supply and system capacity agreement between Western Municipal Water District and Rancho California Water District. Next slide, please. Within the city of Murrieta, there's an area that we affectionately call the Jefferson Corridor. The city of Murrieta has kind of dubbed it the Innovation Zone, and it's the area shown in dark blue on this slide. The service area boundaries between Rancho California Water District and Western can be shown in this area because the business park shown on this slide is wholly in Rancho California Water District. The Innovation Zone is wholly in Western Municipal Water District's retail service area in Murrieta. In much of this area, there is no municipal infrastructure. There is no pipeline for water. There is no collection system for sewer in this area. We are looking to change all of this so that the city can proceed with its plans in the Innovation Zone. Next slide, please. So proposed in this agreement are up to 2 connections, and they're shown on this slide with stars, to provide service in this area connected to Rancho California Water District. The benefit of this agreement is that we can accommodate development however it develops in this area. This area is raw land. There is not a road at this time down the middle of this area. It is, we'll call it paved, but it's a combination of old asphalt and gravel right down the middle of this area. So we've worked with the city. The goal is to get a road down the middle, and then we will be able to provide infrastructure. As this area develops, we will either connect portions of it to Western System on the north or connect it to Rancho System. This agreement allows us to do either, to the benefit of development, however development occurs in that area. The 2 potential locations could be used both or one, or it allows for it to be somewhere in that area. So it's not really fixing us in a specific spot, it's just identified some potential good locations for this to occur. Next slide, please. The principal agreement terms, Western will be responsible for all costs associated with acquiring the water. We are the water importer. We will purchase the water from Metropolitan Water District. That is not included in this agreement. We are not buying water from Rancho California Water District in any way. We will purchase capacity in Rancho's system. This would be storage, pipeline access, and the ability to actually wheel this imported water through their system from what are western turnouts to the south, or even eastern turnouts. Wherever this water comes from, it is Western's responsibility to acquire that water. We'll be responsible for the ongoing O&M and replacement costs for the portions or proportions of Rancho's system that is used. We will be responsible for all costs of service, fees, and charges. These are the annexation fees, design, permitting. So this is not included in the agreement. Western remains responsible for this. We are responsible for ensuring that the innovation zone is the only beneficiary under this agreement. There are provisions that allow in this agreement for us to change the agreement and do additional interconnections at a later date, but right now, what Rancho is agreeing to do is provide up to 1 CFS of water service to the innovation zone area. That's all this agreement is for at this time. We will be the retail service provider. We are responsible for the retail service, providing retail service in this area. Although it is will be connected to Rancho's system, Western will remain the retail service provider. Western, when we do design the interconnections, Western will design these 2 Rancho standards. Rancho will approve the interconnections, and then we will move forward. Rancho will provide the average day demand of about 250,000 gallons per day. Some amount of water. Yeah. It also includes the summer peak flow of about 550,000 gallons per day. Additional flows, these are fire flows, of 4,000 gallons per minute for 4 hours. This meets the requirements of development in that area. The next slide, please. So this agreement that is in front of you is a draft agreement. It is the same agreement that Rancho's board has already approved. Legal counsel from both sides are still crossing T's and dotting I's, so the request and recommendation is that the board authorize execution of this agreement subject to non-substantial changes or modifications from the version that is attached in the staff report. With that, I'd be happy to take questions, but we do have some folks on the Zoom that would like to provide comments as well.
Thanks, Tim. Victor, can you go back to the first slide, which was the map? No. One more slide. No, there you go, that map. Sorry, I wasn't clear. So just to highlight a little bit of why this is so unusual. So if you look at that map, and the blue lines in the top left corner on that map would be Western's lines. The black line is Rancho's water supply line. They have a water supply main, a large main that goes right through our service area to connect. They're on both sides of Western. And so the challenge that we had in this area, I just want to get back to the foundation of why we took this on and why it's unusual. If development occurs in certain phases, which we don't know how it will occur yet, but if a developer came and their property was located in the lower right-hand corner of this map, because it's in Western Service Area, the way that water agencies normally work is Western would require the developer to build water from Western system all the way down to that point. And they would be the first mover into the area. They would get a reimbursement agreement, so they would have to fund a pipeline that got all the way to that lower right-hand corner and then wait for development to occur to get their money back. Well, that's a really big disincentive to some developers. So that was a real hindrance to developing this. So
Can I make a point there too, though? But that is a development standard from all the agencies. It's not just from us.
no, that's what I'm
So,
saying, is
yeah.
this is the normal way that development is done. So after a lot of conversations with Rancho and with our staff and the city, that's where this agreement came from, because it's developing options to deal with the phasing of this construction. So if the city does develop in a way that the first phases go in that area of the innovation zone, then we would be able to provide service without the developer having to build a mile-long infrastructure for their one site. So it's innovative and it works for both agencies, but I just wanted to kind of highlight a few of the complexities here behind the agreement. So with that, I think we have public comment. Rob Grantham is on, the general manager from Rancho. Rob, do you have any comments before we turn it over to the board?
I just want to say thank you to the board, and also just highlight this is us collectively trying to solve regional issues, and for that I on behalf of Rancho California just appreciate the collaboration at the board level, at staff, Craig and Tim and the rest of the team. It's really a nice thing that we're doing on behalf of the community, so thank you for that moment.
Thank you, Rob. Really appreciate you being here. And we really appreciate the partnership that we have with Rancho California Water District. Madam Secretary, are there other members of the public who wish to comment on this item?
I do see a couple of hands raised. The City of Murrieta is on. I'm not sure if they were planning on making a comment. Okay, thank you. Catherine Elliott.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Elliott, and I'm a resident of Murrieta, and a Western customer. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate this agreement and support it. And I really like that both water districts have worked together to find a way to not build redundant infrastructure, which is not a good use of anyone's resources. There's so much you guys all need to be doing. And so I really appreciate that this is a good solution to provide water for future development in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Are there other public comments?
I did get a text message from Ivan Holler, the Assistant City Manager. He says, please convey to your board that the city appreciates and supports collaboration between Western and Rancho California Water District.
Great. Nice to hear from Ivan, because he's been part of this process for a long time. So did we have any other, as you were scrolling through, Madam Secretary, I know you're trying to scroll through the sheets I can see on Zoom.
Thank you. I have no further requests.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and bring it up to comments from the board, because I do have a couple of comments, but I'll
Madam
hold off.
President, if I could, before we get into our comments, it's not our normal practice for the presiding officer to make a motion, but because you are the person who represents this geographic area and you were personally involved in helping structure this, I would ask our board to give you the honor of making a motion.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And
With that, I think it's a great thing.
it would be my pleasure to make that motion to approve this item, and then we'll go ahead and take comments.
Second.
Comments from anybody?
Wonderful project and love the collaboration. Good job, staff, on both sides.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, comments?
Just a compliment to the staff and the board of both the agencies. This is an unusual kind of an agreement, and there was a lot of work that went into it. I think the boards were supportive, but it was the staff that made it happen, as is usually the case. So thank you all.
Absolutely. Any other comments? Okay. Just a few comments, and I'm going to hold on just a second. So I want to show a visual here. Those are the materials that have been involved with making this agreement happen. This is what staff has turned out. This is the enormous amount of work. The meetings first started in 2015. We had an entirely different board up here. There was an entirely different city council, and there was an entirely different board down at Rancho California Water District. We had two totally different general managers that were sitting at those two agencies at the time that this kicked off. This is the work that staff put into this. These are the meetings that took place. And I want to give a shout out to the three ladies, including Ms. Elliott, who was on here, who were part of this process and showed up to those public meetings all the way back in 2015. So they were a huge part, and they know all the work that has gone into this. And this is a huge testament to staff making this happen and turning out all the information that we did on this, the countless meetings that were involved, all of the electeds that were involved, and there are only a few originals. So I wanted to give a shout out to all of those people who took part in this, the residents who came to all of the public meetings that we had of this, that supported solutions, the LAFCO process and the commissioners that helped this along, all of the other agencies, including Eastern and Elsinore, that were also in part of this project that came forward to support and look for solutions and help drive this. And some of the originals. The only remaining member of the Marietta City Council is Jonathan Ingram, so I wanted to give a huge shout out because he was part of that original water committee, and talked to original directors down at Rancho were Jack Hoagland and were Bill Plummer, and the others have all changed, and to all of the prior boards that really put stuff into this. So. And the general manager, Jeff Armstrong, who's now sitting on Eastern's board, and John Rossi, who's now sitting on Rancho's board. So really appreciate the efforts of all these individuals who brought this to fruition and have really made this happen. So I couldn't be prouder of this accomplishment and what this does as a mutual benefit to the region, to the Innovation Center, to what's Marietta is trying to do, and for all of our customers. So I thank you, and I thank you, Mr. Miller, for your dedication and making this cross the finish line. So thank you for that. And to Tim Barr, Tim, you've put a fair amount of hours into this. So I wanted you guys to know this work did not go wasted on me. I kept all of it. So. Referenced it, went back, I have notes, and it's been worth it. So, thank you. Okay, it's vote time.
All right, let's go.
Director Roten,
A hearty yes.
Director Risby,
Yes.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Director Torres,
Yes.
President Denstedt.
Oh, God, yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Staff. This was huge. This was a huge agreement, so appreciate that. Okay, let me clear the dais so I can actually have people be able to see me since this is all being blocked here, and then we'll move on to 7B.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob. Convey our gratitude to the board, please. Appreciate your hard work.
Will do. Thank you.
7B. Ryan is here. We presented this at Engineering Committee. This is a modification that we have to make to our water supply shortage plan. So, Ryan, you want to give us the details?
Yeah, sure. Good morning. Hope you're all doing well. Excuse me. So the item before you is a resolution 3236 to comply with the state board's new emergency regulations specific to commercial, industrial, institutional, non-functional turf. But I've got a borrowed presentation from Matt to give a little background and substance if we can. So the state board came out with their new conservation regulations on May 24th. And then they also held what they called a governor's summit, which we were represented by Metropolitan. Adele was up there. So we did have some representation during that summit. So Executive Order N-7-22 on May 24th, obviously the focus is to get folks to reduce water use and improve water conservation. You'll see 3 bullets here that we are required to comply with per the state board. The first one is requires urban water suppliers to submit preliminary annual water supply and demand assessment to DWR by June 1st, which we did, so we can check that box. The second one is what's before you today. The executive order bans irrigating non-functional turf at commercial, industrial, and institutional properties. So that's a box that we need to check to be in compliance. And then the third requirement was all agencies have to implement their stage 2 or level 2 of their water shortage contingency plan. We've been in stage 2 for a number of years, so we can check that box, no problem there. No changes for our customers. So what is non-functional turf? It's solely ornamental, and it's turf that is not regularly used for human recreational purposes or community events. So it doesn't include parks, sports fields, things like that that we use on a regular basis. It applies to potable water only, so our customers that are on recycled or non-potable, they're exempt from this current ban. And it does not apply to residential customers. So to be crystal clear, it's CII customers. Residential customers are not on the hook. However, homeowners associations are still responsible for complying with this new ban on non-functional turf. This is just showing what you do if you did submit a water shortage contingency plan to DWR, which we did, so we're on the left side here. And then there are agencies that actually didn't put a plan together, and there are different requirements. And you can just see here a few examples of what a contingency plan would include: rebates, outreach, expanded communication, et cetera, those types of standard actions. So I mentioned this summit that occurred a couple weeks ago. I want to jump right to the bottom bullet there. This is maybe telling for the water industry up and down the state. The governor basically kind of put a teaser out there saying if you guys can't reduce the amount of water use that we think we need, maybe more mandates will be coming. So I think that's important for us to understand, recognize, and be prepared if and when that happens. And that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any public comment on this item?
I see no request to speak at this time.
Okay. Comments from any members of the board?
Madam President, just for clarification for anybody who might be listening in on this, our wholesale agencies, Riverside Public Utilities, for example, are responsible for adopting their own restrictions and resolutions, implementing those. We won't do any enforcement on our wholesale partners or on their customers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted that out there.
Yeah.
I think this is, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
No, I was just going to add that I actually did a presentation last night to the city council in Riverside with Todd Corbin and presented the same issues, and they went over their water shortage contingency plan and what Riverside's requirements are. So just to highlight your point is all the retail agencies must go through the same process themselves.
Okay. I think this is something we don't have any choice but to do, and so I will move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and,
I do have a quick one.
okay.
Me too. Go ahead,
Okay.
Gracie.
So what does that mean for our retail, sorry, your question, your comment sparked, so what does that mean for our retail customers? Are we,
Well, this is a modification for our commercial industrial customers. This addition puts us in compliance with the state board's mandate.
Okay, so
Because that
nothing
wasn't
changes
part
for them.
of our water shortage contingency plan that we would ban irrigation of non-functional turf with potable water. This is a new thing, so we have to add it. We could have had it in there, but we didn't anticipate this when we approved it. So this is just an administrative requirement to be in compliance with the state's mandate.
right, I'm just so that anyone watching understands that our residential customers are, they're still under the same
Yes.
plan
And-
as part of our
and
drought plan that's been adopted.
Maybe to give the board members a little more information,
Sure.
the communications team and our water resources team have been doing a really good job of reaching out because frankly, that's one of the reasons we're doing this to the city council and others, and I've done a presentation to the city managers. They have no idea that this is really happening. So we got to get the message out there so they're in compliance and they're planning for, how they're going to handle it. And at the same time, we're kind of pitching that, hey, how about a turf replacement right now as you're going through this? It's the perfect time to convert if you can convert, and there's subsidies that are available to help do that. But a big outreach effort in alignment with all of this.
Okay, wonderful.
The one place where residential customers of Western may see something is if their HOA is irrigating with potable water, purely ornamental turf. That's not going to get water anymore under this.
And because I deal with HOA so much, are we prepared to, I don't know, can you do anything to the HOA if they, let's say they don't comply?
We can educate them. I mean, I think we don't have authority. We have authority to go after individual customers. So we'll educate.
Okay.
We could come back to the board to make a modification of our policy, but I don't anticipate that. We'll see how this all plays out, but we're reaching out to them already, so we're gonna educate. Now, remember, it's not the residents within the HOA, they still control their own residential landscapes. This is the common areas that would have to be in compliance.
Got it.
I guess for legal counsel, wouldn't the HOA itself be considered a customer if they have a meter for irrigation in the HOA's name?
I believe so, for the common areas at least, yes.
Yeah.
I've just seen, I'm in my time working with them, they're usually the hardest ones to get to compliance and then hold accountable. I don't know if that makes sense. So I don't know if you've had the same.
The challenge with HOAs is
Yeah.
that you've got a property management company paying the bill, and you've got a landscape company who controls the water. We're working to reach out to all of the folks involved, starting with property management companies. Another point of clarification is that we do have the authority to fine any customer in Western service area that is granted to us under the water code and specifically in this emergency order. However, Western's water shortage contingency plan does not contemplate penalties or fines until we get to stage 3.
Got it.
So,
And that's, and that makes sense. Yeah, I've only seen it in, illicit discharges, right? Where they are going out and the customer is getting the notices and warnings and they're like, but if I turn it off, my HOA is gonna ding me. And so it's like always been this circle we've not been able to close. So that's why I was asking. So thank you for that. We're so good at this.
Okay.
We're getting good at this.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay. I had a motion to approve in a second. Call for the vote.
Thank you. Director Rizvi?
Yes.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
Director Torres?
Yes.
Director Denstedt?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, 7C.
All right, Stu Dillingham is here. This was presented to the Finance Committee, but this is the approval of our annual purchase orders that exceed $100,000. Stu?
Good morning, Western Board and staff. The current action item relating to Western's annual POs over $100,000 for the coming year, fiscal year 22-23, was presented at the Finance Committee on May 16th. The annual POs over $100,000 have not changed, and a listing is included in today's board agenda package. The Finance Committee and staff is recommending the approval of these POs. Any other Western POs over $100,000 during the coming year would be presented to the committee for board approval, committee and board approval on an individual basis as needed during the coming year. If there's any questions, please let me know. We reviewed the POs at the Finance Committee, and I think all of the board members were present.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments from members of the public on this item?
I see no request to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Move it back to the board for discussion or a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
A second by Director Gardner. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi? Director Gardner?
Aye.
Director Torres?
Yes.
President Denstedt?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, 7D.
All right, 7D, this is the approval of the SCADA Standards Project in the amount of $250,000. Dean Standing Warrior's here with us this morning to give the board a summary of the action. Dean?
Good morning, everybody.
Oh,
Thank
Dean,
you.
you're actually wearing a tie.
He looks nice
That's-
today.
Wow, you look very nice
I don't
today.
do it very often, so everyone's noticing it.
You're throwing him off.
Good morning and welcome to the board.
Very much. Appreciate it. Good morning. Craig mentioned I'm Dean Standing Warrior, Operations Manager for Automation Electrical Services. I'm here today to discuss our supervisory control, data acquisition control systems project. You may remember we presented this at the EOWR meeting on May 31st, so I just want to provide a brief overview of what we discussed there. So our action item today is to approve the SCADA Control System Standards project with the budget of $250,000, and also issue a purchase order for Tetra Tech in the amount of $202,100. With us today, I have Melinda Tam from Tetra Tech to help and answer any questions that we may have. Melinda Tam is Tetra Tech's National Automation Practice Leader and the principal in charge on this proposed project. So as part of Western's strategic goals to leverage technology, we're proposing to develop standard SCADA system control system standards. The standards project itself was derived from the SCADA master plan that was completed in 2018. The master plan assessment, which is a piece of the whole master plan, highlighted key findings that focused on the lack of and incomplete control system standards. The development of the control system standards will result in consistency and reliability in the way we develop our control systems. So the project will develop standards that will ensure projects that are developed in the first year will look, feel, and and behave identically to those developed in later years. So that's it on the project itself, but I also wanted to reach and kind of expand on a question that Director Gardner had at the EOWR meeting. And I'll have Melinda join me at this time to provide further feedback on that question. But just to provide a little background on Director Gardner's question, it was in regards to Tetra Tech security, cyber and otherwise, when assessing Western SCADA systems. So the question, not word for word, but paraphrasing, was what does Tetra Tech do to ensure security from system to system? So from their system to our system. So Tetra Tech follows all Department of Homeland Security and Critical Infrastructure Security Agency cybersecurity recommendations for projects that involve critical infrastructure industrial control systems such as ours. Tetra Tech also employs the National Institute of Standards and Technology cybersecurity framework guidance in their operations. So, and then also from our perspective, just a keynote on how we guard ourselves as well. Western's perspective is Tetra Tech will utilize Western's remote access portal, and that is designed with strict access controls forcing least privilege access and fortified with two-factor authentication. So just wanted to provide a little feedback on that and expand on that for you a little bit. I know we answered the question in the committee meeting, but
Dean, I really appreciate that response. My concern was that if somebody managed to hack into Tetra Tech's system,
right,
what protections there were that would keep them from reaching our system through Tetra Tech, and I think you have answered that very well, so thank you.
And that's all I had, so if there's any questions on the project or anything else.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome, thank you.
Are there any members of the public who have any comment on this item?
I see no request to speak.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back up to the dais for discussion. Anybody comments?
I was gonna make a motion, but and this is just for the report, or the agenda. I think it would be helpful, and this is just a note, in the title, for those that are watching now, to add, to have the full description, so include the 201, or is that included in the 250?
It is.
Oh, okay, so I don't know why I thought they were separate, the way he said it. So, okay, never mind, I was thinking there were two separate things, so I was like, why isn't it listed? So never mind, ignore it, so move.
On second.
Okay.
Take
Well,
Director Rizvi's.
There you go. Okay, Madam Secretary, anybody other comments? Okay. We'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Torres?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
President Dinstedt?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Dean. And like the tie. Okay.
Yeah. Now go take the tie off.
All right. Moving on to 7E on our agenda, and this goes to legal counsel. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Madam President. I'm certainly prepared to provide a staff presentation. I don't know if it's the board's usual protocol to have the committees, because this was a committee item. If the committee wants to have any opportunity to speak before I do, otherwise I'm prepared to address it.
But just as a brief introduction, if I could, if you all recall, Director Torres and I are a ad hoc committee to help review and make recommendations for any updates to Western's codes. And we've completed a significant amount of that work. There is still, volume-wise, much more to look at than we have looked at, but I don't anticipate any really significant changes coming. There might be some language cleanup, but I don't think anything substantive is likely to come in the majority of what we have not gotten through. So the question that I would like some guidance from the board is, would you like us to bring you what we have completed so far in the recommendations that we are prepared to make, so that you don't have quite as much to look at once. And it's also, I think, important to recognize that the portions we have focused on primarily deal with our code of ethics, and so there are some noticeable recommendations for change that will be made when that comes forward, and some sections dealing with campaigns and elections. I believe that we will have some recommendations that would change a little bit some of the requirements on fundraising. And since we have an election for 4 seats coming up this November, the board may wish to consider those proposed changes and get them implemented in advance of the election, or the board may prefer to leave it alone and not address those possible changes until after the election. So that's the guidance that I am hoping for. And Jeff, if you have a presentation, love to hear it.
Sure, I can give a brief presentation in terms of the overall subjects that the committee has addressed, and then I can get into the details if the board would like. So there are about a dozen different topics that the committee worked on. The first was rotation of officers. In that section, we have a little bit of a conflict between one section of our code and another. One section suggests that it's entirely up to the board every year to select its officers. Another section identifies kind of a rotational system. The committee is recommending removing the section that provides for the automatic rotation and basically leaving it up to the board every year to select its officers, as some other public agencies do. The second category was appointment of Metropolitan Water District directors. The board adopted a resolution, I believe within the last 12 months or so, clarifying that all of the directors can vote on that appointment. We're simply seeking clarification from our municipal code publisher that resolution qualifies for inclusion in our municipal code. So there's really nothing for the board to do there, but the committee did address that. Board member self-reporting and censure policy. This just kind of clarifies what happens if the president is the subject of a self-reporting and censure policy violation, because it's not clearly addressed in the current code. Designation of general manager as employee relations officer. Again, this was something that we just caught in the municipal code. The board has actually designated the general manager as the employee relations officer by resolution and has confirmed that in the past. So again, there's nothing for the board to do there. General manager authority to settle claims. Currently, the board's code provides the general manager and staff with the authority to settle claims up to $10,000. State law allows that dollar amount to be $50,000, so the committee is recommending bringing that local code into compliance or conformity with the state code dollar amount.
So increase it
To
to
$50,000.
50,000.
Yep. Director compensation and expenses. There's a provision in our code that mandates that expenses that are reimbursed to directors be brought to the board on a regular basis. That actually is done on a monthly basis. The committee is recommending that we take it out of the code, but that we continue to implement that practice just so that it's not something that's mandated, but instead occurs as a matter of practice. Use of district resources, there was some kind of grammatical changes to that, just to clarify what the intent was. The intent there is to ensure that board members don't use their district resources, laptops, cell phones, whatnot, for personal purposes. So the committee is recommending that change. Nepotism policy, the current code provides that board members are not allowed to recommend relatives for employment. The committee's recommending that the board amend that so that the board is not allowed to recommend anybody, whether a relative or not, for employment, with the exception of general manager and legal counsel. And the basis for that exception is obviously the board is the entity that hires and is responsible for those two positions. So the thought was the board members may have candidates that the rest of the board might be interested in. So that's the recommendation on that policy.
So we can only recommend it to the legal counsel and the general manager, or no?
You can only recommend candidates for the position of
Oh,
general
okay.
manager or legal counsel to the rest of the board.
Okay.
So board members would not be allowed to recommend other candidates for other positions to the rest of the board.
So can I, okay,
Yes.
so let me just ask one clarifying question, because there are actually 3 direct reports to the board, so you're only suggesting that 2 of the direct reports could be recommendations and not the 3rd direct report?
You're referring to auditor?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
auditor is
I
direct report to us
I
for the
think the
district.
discussion was because that's always a firm, and we approve a contract for the firm, that was not
Okay.
part of the same process.
No, and I'm just kind of curious, because there are 3 direct reports to the board, so
Yeah,
just,
I would just,
a point of
yeah,
clarification.
I would point out that the committee intends to look at these sections, and it's a separate section of our code, dealing with contracts. And I suspect that we will recommend that a board member not recommend a contract, or either, a contractor, either, whether it be auditor or janitorial service.
Oh, yeah, we just haven't gotten to that.
That's
This
fair
is all
point.
that we've gotten to. Yeah.
And I should point out, to the extent the board wishes these to come forward, there will be an opportunity for the board to chew on all of these different
I
issues. So
think-
it's not final
Yeah,
at this point.
Mr. Ballinger's making a nice presentation on what the committee's been working on, but just a reminder, this is not for action. This is a discussion about whether we want to bring some of these backwards, but I think it's really helpful, Jeff, that you're going through it.
You have a question? Another section that the committee worked on is a provision dealing with soliciting political contributions. This provision currently says that board members cannot solicit political contributions from district employees, officers, consultants, or contractors. It's not really clear whether this applies only to existing consultants and contractors, or if there's some time period. And so the committee is recommending bringing this into conformance with a state law that does provide for a time period of 3 months following the date that a decision is made by the board. So this is kind of bringing it into alignment with state law. There's a provision dealing with the board and general manager relationship. It's really kind of extraneous language, and it's duplicative of other code sections, so the committee is recommending remove that so that we don't duplicate it. And then finally, there's a provision in our ethics policy for self-reporting. The committee is working on kind of creating an exemption for minor infractions. So maybe traffic violations, parking violations. The committee hasn't settled on final language, but the idea is to not include minor violations that don't really deal with ethics or public service. So that's a broad overview of the different sections that the committee has worked on. As Board Member Gardner indicated, the committee has gotten a lot of work done in the 5 meetings since the board tasked it with working on it. So if you have any questions about the technical aspects, I'm certainly available to answer those. Otherwise, we seek direction in terms of whether and to what extent the board wishes the committee to bring back final recommendations.
Okay. Discussion.
So, yeah, the question is, do you want to look at what we've done so far, or do you want to wait till we are completed? Or, because you can see that even going piece by piece of what we've completed will probably be lengthy in discussion as each one comes in. Maybe some will be quick, but that's what we want to know. If you're ready for that now, or should we just continue meeting?
Okay. Other comments?
I would like to see it now, because it's going to be overwhelming going through everything at one time. 'Cause it's been 5 weeks of work, and we see already being a lot of information. So my
Right.
recommendation would be to to bring it sooner than later.
No, I think I agree with that. I think if we were to put a couple of topics together at a time, and you kind of group them, council, and we'll let you make that decision to whatever the nexus of connection is between the topics that may flow better. I think that's probably the best, and just hit them at the next couple of meetings that we do for discussion.
We can also look
So-
at the ones that are, oh, sorry, did I interrupt? Oh. We could also look at the ones that are timely, like the election ones, even though they're not in a certain order or anything, just, I mean, you're a smart guy. I'm sure you can put all
Yeah,
that.
no, I would leave that to your discretion as far as how you were going to place them on there so that we look at a couple of those topics. And maybe some of them are just the cleanups, right, where it moves to what the state's direction is, and they're non-substantive, so they're just kind of formal, formal blessing of whatever it is that we need to change in the code to bring it up to speed and up to date. So that might be the easy two. So just to get it out of the way, so you guys can move on and keep going through as we do the changes. So I think we're in concurrence with that. So I think that.
Just have a question.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the committee for the time and attention that has obviously gone into this. So if I'm understanding correctly, what we're asking for today is, do we want to hear this sooner than later? I agree with sooner, especially on some of these. So then when it comes back to the board, will that be the time that we can give input or ask questions?
Yes.
So we wouldn't do any of that beforehand?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I
All
think
right.
we have direction.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll move on and move into reports. General Counsel, you are up.
Madam President, board members, I have nothing to report. I would point out I'm going to be out of town the first meeting in July, so Assistant General Counsel Holland Stewart will be filling in for me. So if I don't see you before then, have a nice Independence Day.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to General Manager and staff reports. Mr. Miller.
Okay, thank you. I have a few things to talk about today. First thing, I'd like to let the board know that we had a team building event last Thursday out at Operations. It was hugely successful, very, very informative. Nate Sossman was the leader of the team building, and as the board has been through some of his team building, we have shared the hardwired assessment with all employees now. And so I think the employees really enjoyed finding out what all of their colors were, just like everyone else. But very, very motivational. You know, Nate is a great leadership trainer, and so I think staff really appreciated that. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Are you doing any type of survey from staff just to get a comment back on that experience, or was it all a verbal take of the day?
No, we're not doing a formal survey, but we've heard a huge amount of positive feedback.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Solve the water crisis. You have in front of you a little card. This is similar to what we did out at Aqua, and we handed these out to get people to go to our mixer that we had on the Thursday morning of Aqua. You see on the back there's a QR code. So if you put that in your phone, take a picture of it, it'll link you to the website. And it's a great website. I don't know if you've been on the website. It is really good. The number of participating agencies continues to grow. Last week I did a presentation to Mesa Water down in Orange County and to MODOC. And so Mesa's board approved to join, and MODOC's finance committee approved to recommend it to their board for joining. So good news. Also just found out that we did our first press release on Solve the Water Crisis, and it got picked up by the Water Maven. I don't know if the board pays attention to Maven.
I do.
But yeah, it's I don't want to criticize Director Torres, but it's a water nerd thing.
Yeah. I'm a big nerd.
All of us in the water industry pay attention to the Maven, and so that's great news that it got picked up in the Maven. And Sarah's continuing to work with Jenny at KP to get it picked up in other areas. So great news. You have a flyer for the March Military Appreciation Picnic, which is coming in September. It's a great event. You need to sign up yourself. You can't go through Tammy or the district to sign up because you have to enter a bunch of personal information for security clearance to get on the base. So if you're going to participate, don't look to us. You got it. We don't have your personal information. That's yours.
The most sensitive might be T-shirt size.
Yeah.
I actually can help with the T-shirt size, but nothing beyond the T-shirt.
Yeah, staff has participated heavily in this and volunteered. It's a really good event, so hopefully you'll be able to join. And we sponsor. And and it hasn't happened in a little while.
This is to volunteer? Sorry.
This is
asking if we want to volunteer, not just attend?
Well, it's giving you information about attending, but you can also sign up to volunteer.
You cannot get on the base unless you fill out this, because the base doesn't let anybody on unless you've filled out paperwork. So this is all the paperwork associated with getting on base.
Okay.
Or you have military ID that gets you access to the base.
That is true, too.
Right.
Okay, well, I will look into it.
That concludes what I have to say, and Ryan is going to give us a water supply update.
Great, thanks. Good morning again.
You bring in good news, right?
So my color is yellow, so I like consensus and good news. I keep telling Tim I'm tired of giving this presentation because it's only bad news. So no, I don't have good news today.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I could make some stuff up, but, just a high-level overview. Emergency status remains in effect. I think we all know that. We discussed the executive order on non-functional turf earlier. Metropolitan has restrictions for the state water project dependent areas. That's 6 agencies, LA County, San Bernardino, and Ventura County. And Lake Mead levels dropped below a certain level that triggers some coordination amongst the states. I'll get more into that in a minute here. So Diamond Valley Lake, the reason why we're not considered a state water project dependent area is because we have access to stored water in Diamond Valley Lake. So this shows you the drastic drop in water levels in our local reservoir. It's at 68% of capacity, almost 550,000 acre feet, whereas just a couple years ago it was close to capacity at almost 800,000 acre feet. So Metropolitan is pulling from storage, and that's where we're getting our imported water from. Locally, pre-SIP, we've only got about 12 inches, and as you might have guessed, the rainy season is over. We kind of flatlined since January, as you can see there, and so we are below average for local precipitation of about 17 inches. Similar story up in Northern California. We're at about 78% of average for this time of year. We did have a wet December, but as you've heard in the past, January, February, and March were the driest months on record. And the state water project allocation is still at 5%. And the latest estimates suggest, as I mentioned earlier, that the state might come out with some type of mandate in terms of water reduction, a percentage potentially. So you can kind of see, it's the blue line, it's kind of hard. We just had to cut and paste here, but it's back to back, maybe 3 years in a row now that we're below average. So it's kind of stacking on top of each other. So that's why our reservoirs up in Northern California and throughout the State Water Project are so low. Upper Colorado, so Lake Mead dropped below 1,050 feet, triggering an unprecedented, what they call a Tier 1 shortage cut. And so that cut first goes to agricultural customers. However, if it's below that 1050-foot marker on January 1st of 2023, the southern states, California, Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico, will also get triggered with some cuts and conservation requirements. The good news is Metropolitan still has supplies to fill the aqueduct this year, but if conditions continue, it might look a little bit different next year. Just to give you a feel over history, Lake Mead, this is elevation levels. So you can see the last 20 years, it's been very dramatic. You know, if you look at that, it was up almost at 1250 feet, and now it's below 1050 feet. So 200-foot drop in one of the biggest reservoirs in the nation. So that's a pretty dramatic shift in the last 20 years. So next steps, obviously, we're going to continue to track the hydrology. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to maintain our stage 2 of our water shortage contingency plan. Sarah and her team are ramping up our outreach and communications effort this summer. And if we need to move into a higher stage, we still have to come back to the board and get adoption via resolution if we want to go into a higher stage. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Okay, questions?
So you said that we have to come back to a resolution to go to a next stage. What are we looking at? Do you have any plans of how do you roll out into that one?
Yeah, so I think we would go into stage 3 if and when the state or Met pass additional mandates that will require us to conserve more. Currently, stage 2, we estimate about a 20% saving. So if we need to do more than that, then that's probably the time we would come back to the board.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah. I had a question about the, on the Lake Mead, the mandatory cuts primarily to agriculture. I know you probably don't have it up in your head today, but I'm, would like to know what those cuts are. Like, how is that really affecting ag? Because I'm starting to see and hear a lot of conversations about, you know, ag is being cut, food shortages, et cetera, and it's a little scary.
Yeah.
So I want to be aware.
I'll start that one. Metropolitan's expert on the Colorado River, Bill Hazenkamp, is scheduled to be here at our board meeting on July 20th.
Oh.
So you can ask all those Colorado River questions directly to Bill Hazenkamp, and he'd be the best source of information, up to date and timely.
A lot of ag in your area, right?
There is some, but I think overall in our whole district, we have it, but I'm also concerned about the Central Valley and all of that. I mean, people are starting to talk about it, and even non-water people are starting to ask about it. So I want to be able to, you know, have some sort of an answer for them, even if it isn't good news.
Well, and I'll put a little bit of context before Bill Hazenkamp gets here. Bill is an excellent speaker, and he's been working on the Colorado River almost his entire career. I don't know what Met's going to do if he ever retires. But when they're talking about ag cutbacks, they're talking about ag cutbacks on the Colorado to the rights holders on the Colorado that are ag entities.
Okay.
They're not talking about Central Valley or other things. They're certainly getting impacted by the State Water Project and CVP, Central Valley Project, cutbacks and restrictions in the Central Valley. So two different water supplies with the same kind of results. The other thing that gets really complicated on the Colorado River is that Metropolitan has a lot of water in storage. And so as they get into these restrictions, it's new area, it's new problems that they've never had to confront in the 7 basin states and the agreements on the river. So how do you handle, you know, this bucket of water that Metropolitan has invested and purposefully put in Lake Mead to prop up storage levels, but it's fully their water, they own it, they can take it. Are they going to start getting restrictions on how fast they can take it? Because if they start taking their stored water, the water levels are going to plummet even faster. So it's going to get really complicated. And there's, you know, there is a huge amount of negotiations that are happening right now and are going to continue to happen amongst all the basin states. This is a huge federal issue on how to handle this.
Thank you.
Laura, for agriculture in California, the Imperial Valley and the southern part of the Coachella Valley are significantly impacted by Colorado River water flows. That's the part of our state that will be affected by cutbacks from Colorado River, and that's pretty significant. If you look at an air photo or satellite view of the Coachella Valley, all that green is irrigated.
Yeah.
No, and there was conversation too when I went up to the Delta, so about crops and the differences that are happening up there between the permanent crops that people are putting in versus the rotating crops. So the water requirements are very different. So there's some conversations going on about that, and you know, some of the groves and things that they've got put up there versus something like, I don't know, tomatoes that have a very short span and then you take everything out. They're not a plant that stays in that you water year round. So, you know, so just kind of different. Very, very different discussions going on all over the place about ag.
Yeah.
So, any other good news you'd like to share with us, Ryan?
No, that's enough for today. Thanks.
Okay.
There's too much water in
Pipeline.
There you go.
Right?
Ryan's not working on anything. He can make a pipeline from Yellowstone.
Any?
No, you don't.
Right now. Anything else, Mr. Miller?
No.
Okay. Well, the challenges we face, you know, we don't just sign up for the good times, we sign up for the difficult ones too. Okay, moving on to director reports from SAPA.
Okay, SAPA met June 7th. A fair amount of routine sorts of things, but of significance, the Project Authority 23 Committee, which is the SARCUP committee, agreed to extend the time for spending those dollars to July 31, 2025. That's really significant to Western because a big piece of funding for a couple of projects, particularly Cannon Pump Station, are those dollars. So that's helpful to us. The commission itself is authorized an RFP for the cloud seeding program. That does not commit any dollars. It just gets the RFP out there. Once it comes back, SAPA will say, okay, we need this many dollars. And then the member agencies will be told, your share is this much. And each of the member agencies will decide whether to provide those dollars or not. So that's on the horizon. There is an effort to try to, if the program is going to go forward, to try to have it in place by late this fall so that it could, if it's going to have a benefit, it would benefit this winter. And then the Project Authority 24 Committee, which is the brine line, adopted rates for the coming year and directed staff to prepare an RFP for a brine line master plan, which is something we've been talking about doing for some time and are finally getting there. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. For the Met report, it was a long couple of days, a lot of contracts that were approved and a lot of money that moved around for projects and a variety of different things that Met's trying to update, bring up to speed, improve, do a lot of processes with. I had some interesting conversations when we were looking at all of the insurance coverage and what those involve, and some travel insurance and some miscellaneous things that I found very entertaining that they actually cover. For instances, like Chairwoman went to Madrid for the International Water Conference, and they actually pay for not just travel insurance should something occur, God forbid, but instances if somebody were like kidnapped and held for ransom. So I thought, okay, wow, that's a new one. Okay. So that was kind of enlightening how many insurance coverages that they take into consideration, not just for liability for certain things, but for other instances. So kind of a surprise to me, and the response I got back with the question, like, what's contained in other? So, okay. So I will be making sure that before I make any travel arrangements, what I'm actually getting into. So there were some changes to the administrative code and some contract negotiations for the Juneteenth and the annual leave policy and discussions that took place. So that came under the labor agreements and a variety of different things. So everything was successfully passed on the Met's agenda. So all good stuff. And I think I will leave my Delta stuff for my director comments. So we'll go ahead and move on to Chino Basin.
Watermaster meets next week. The significant thing that has happened since my last report is the judge who was assigned to oversee Watermaster and that Watermaster reports to retired and is now gone. The presiding judge for San Bernardino County has appointed another judge to fill that role. Each of the Watermaster parties has the ability to challenge a judge and essentially disqualify them. There is some real concern that it will take some time for each of the entities to exercise that challenge, and we actually will know who our judge long-term is. The judge who is currently assigned has been on the bench for quite some time, seems pretty knowledgeable, and may prove to be a really good judge from Watermaster's perspective in terms of level of interest and level of knowledge. And that's kind of key in this instance, so time will tell.
Okay, thank you very much. CDA?
So we met on June 1st. We had an amendment to a contract for Kingley Technologies, which does our biocide. We approved an amendment to our water chemicals contract for Clean Place Chemicals. And then an amendment to our contract for professional services for engineering services from Hazen and Sawyer. This was actually one of the longer CDA meetings I've been to. An amendment to engineering services for ACO and ACO Engineering Services Incorporated for their maintenance services. We had a agreement for Aquacetic, which does our SCADA programming and maintenance. We approved a services agreement with Carollo Engineering that does our concrete reduction, facility operations, and services agreement for Eurofin, which is doing right now the PFAS, PFOA sampling, and then emergency services contract to perform pipeline repairs for the Chino desalter, and then another one for our sewer line. And that was it. That was a good meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. RCRA.
RCRA is dark till September. So no more meet. And
Okay,
Sura was canceled yesterday.
okay. WRCOG, so WRCOG had a number of standard agreements that were authorized as part of the budget process and a variety of different actions. The the levies that were put on for PACE, those were all authorized through all the different counties to be placed on the tax roll for collection under those programs. And then, of course, more discussion over the General Assembly, getting ready for that. So as a reminder, that is coming up here on the 23rd for General Assembly. So looking forward to that. I might make a comment, if we have a whole bunch of these cards, this might be something really good to put on the tables for a takeaway for folks at General Assembly if we have enough of these in print. So just looking at my communications staff who's given me the nod. So, might be an opportunity to get others to take a look at this since we have captive audience, people in attendance at that. So, all good things. Okay. For Aqua, so the Region 9 program is going to be held on the June 24th date, so that is up and coming. It'll be out at Wilson Creek, so we're looking forward to that. I've heard a lot of people have signed up, and it's going to be well attended, so really looking forward to that program coming up. Okay. Moving on to director's comments. I'll start off with Director Risby. Comments today.
I saw the meeting that we will not be meeting before the 4th of July, so happy Independence Day to everyone. And that's about it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Director Oughton.
Well, I hope you'll indulge me for a few minutes, because I thought I had one thing, and then I kept adding to my list, so. And I don't get to do report outs, so I figure I can combine.
No, absolutely.
I also would like to acknowledge Independence Day coming up and encourage all of you to find one or more of the amazing celebrations that will be going on. I know in Harupa Valley, we have a 3rd of July event with fireworks and things like that. I'll actually be attending the Riverside Concert for Heroes at Riverside National on the 3rd. Some friends called and said, hey, you want to go? And I've gone before, but it's been quite a while. So I would, just encourage you to find celebrations like that. I know Eastville has their, it's called Something in the Park. And it's, I think it's the weekend before July 4th weekend. So they're spreading out all the ways to have fun. I wanted to just share that, you get these ads on Facebook sometimes, and some of them are ridiculous, but this one kept catching my eye, and it was about, for a YouTube video about the Sites Reservoir. And I've heard little bits about the Sites Reservoir project, and it's a 1-hour video, and I was like, oh, do I really want to watch this for an hour? But I want to tell you that it was brimming with great information. It's done by the Southern California Water Coalition, and Charlie Wilson was like the moderator of a panel that had Adele from Met. It had Heather Dyer from San Bernardino Valley Water, and then 2 gentlemen from the Sites Reservoir JPA. And it's not just about Sites Reservoir, it's about water storage in general in California. So I learned a lot. It was, I think, very understandable. I didn't feel like anyone was talking only to water people. So I would just highly recommend. Their podcast is called What Matters. They have a water TV and podcast. This is episode 7, which just, when I looked at it, it's very recently released. So it kept coming up on my Facebook. So I was like, all right, I'll watch it, but highly suggested. It was really good. Brenda, I wanted to thank you for your visual today, because I think especially when projects take a long time like that, and people have come and gone, and some people initiated it, and others have worked on it and carried it on, that we don't always realize all that behind the scenes. We see it as an agenda item, which is great, but, it's a little paragraph and an item, 2-line item on the agenda, not, for me especially, not realizing the history behind it, and really the monumental accomplishment that was. So I love visuals, and I was like, wow. And I'm impressed that you saved all the paperwork, because I tend to do that too. So.
Need an extra room in my house.
Yes,
For it.
and then sometimes you're like, I know I have that paperwork somewhere. Where is it? So thank you for that. And I think that was pretty much it. But I highly suggest that YouTube video on the Sites project. It was.
What is it called? called the video?
It was titled Sites, Reservoir, and the Future of California Water Storage. But if you look up the Southern California Water Coalition, I think you'll find it. And they have a Facebook page, and you can
yeah.
scroll down and you'll see the different, it looks like they maybe do one of these a month. And this one just happened to be on sites. So it was good.
Okay. Thank you very much for those updates. All right. Director Gardner.
Thank you. On the Solve the Water Crisis topic, I put on my personal Facebook page the press release and urged people to read it. It is a relatively long read and not the kind of thing people will go all the way through typically on Facebook. That has generated some interesting discussion all the way from, nobody's ever going to do anything, we're up the creek, to it's all one party's fault, to some actual discussion about conservation measures that people can use, that conservation is important now, but it's not going to get us out of the issue. We need physical things done to get us over time in better shape. So I would recommend that those of you who do use Facebook, consider putting it on your page, but I will warn you that there will be some comments that may require your attention unless you're going to just post it and then ignore it.
It would be.
Comments don't matter.
All right. Thank you. Director Torres.
Yes, I wanted to start with congratulations to President Dunstad. I see you work incredibly hard for your district, for your division, for this district, and I'm sure it's very satisfying.
Oh, yes.
To see that happen, and no matter, regardless of anything I ever do, I throw everything away. So, my kids don't have scrapbooks, like that's how bad I am. So, but congratulations. That must be. It goes away. I don't know where it ends up. Not with me though. And then I wanted to also say, Happy Father's Day. All the gentlemen, I think, on the dais. I don't want to assume, but Happy Father's Day, and all our staff members and any member of the public. It's an important day to celebrate. I know I gained a lot of my great and bad things from my dad, but I love all of them. So, with that, Happy 4th of July. And Independence Day, and coming up this weekend is also Juneteenth. And Director Dunstad mentioned the amazing thing. I think if I'm reading it right, I try to get clarification, but it sounds like they are really looking at equity, and I think this is why representation is so important. Looking at equity and these types of things, and so if I read it right, and they added Juneteenth as a holiday, that's amazing. And for those who celebrate, happy Juneteenth. So, and then I wanted to mention, we had the WELL Conference this past weekend. It was the Southern California WELL Conference, which was phenomenal. I've heard nothing. I was honored to be on the planning committee of that, and I heard nothing but great things about the speakers, the panels, their new WELLO program. I went through it when I was first elected, and it was great, but apparently it hasn't improved so much. And so for those of you who haven't had a chance, that WELLO program is a water education program for leaders who are either Latino or serve heavily Latino areas, like I think both my colleagues do. So I would encourage you to do it. And apparently has just gotten better and better. You tour across the country, understanding different water issues state. And so, like I said, it was a very successful. I got to see one of my colleagues there, and then on Monday, the first graduating class of the pre-apprentices for IU Works graduated, and I know that we're looking at interns. So there's 15 potential interns that are basically finishing their T1, D1s now. So it was wonderful to see their families there celebrating the hard work of 6 months of a pre-apprenticeship program, and now they're all excited and ready to continue on that path. So that was it. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, the picture you are looking at is Lake Orville. When I was there on Tuesday, I went on the Delta trip, invited all of the directors from Met, and a lot of newbies on the board went, so we could go up there and get a tour of facilities and see the status of everything. And this, unfortunately, is the status of Lake Orville. So it's a site. You can obviously see how low the water levels have gone. That's a picture right there of I guess it's technically called a hydroelectric plant right there that's generating electricity off of that. And you can see that it's critical that that stays working because it puts out some benefits. So, and it needs to have access to the water. So really eye-opening going up there and seeing that huge bathtub ring and how low everything has really gotten, to give you a sense of what dire needs we are in for some rainfall, definitely, some snowpack and some other things. Did we have an opportunity to put up any other? Oh, okay, so here's another picture. This is also Lake Orville, so you can see the bathtub ring and how far it extends. It just, it gives such a visual. The area that I was standing on, the water level should have been all the way up to that point. So it's really eye-opening. If you can keep going through a couple of pictures so you can see just the perspectives. This was the emergency spillway, and on the top of it, that huge amount of work and concrete and 24/7 work. I went to the visitor center and they showed us an entire overlapping video. It was a movie clip that went like 8.5 minutes to show us over time the amount of concrete and what they poured into this. And I couldn't even tell you the amount of information that I had thrown at me. Laura, your head would have spun around a couple of times because I was just swimming out there with all of the information and the data that I was collecting for all of the stuff that we went and just quickly saw over the 2-day period. It was nonstop. I can tell you I was really dragging when I got home because they put you on a bus early in the morning and they drive you around to all these. We talk the entire way and staff give presentations and talk about what it is that we just saw, what it is that we're going to see, talk about other challenges along the way. That's why I was looking at the groves and the permanent plants, agricultural things that they've got, because as we were driving to these places, that's what we were passing. As we saw the rice fields, we saw the sticky rice, those of us that really love sushi, that's what's growing up there, and it's a big deal. So a lot of conversations that we had. It was a nonstop day. Go to the next. So this is the spillway coming down from the other side of the dam, so you could see, and this is what was repaired, and the immense amount of work that went into that. So if you ever get an opportunity, we're going to be starting up the state trips again. That was also a level of discussion at that. So coming in the fall, we're looking at doing that, and they're going to be partnering with directors. They're hoping that we can collaborate and do a 2-director tour. So I've already talked to a couple of directors about partnering with them and trying to get these going and try to get some dates on the books. We've got Michael, who's polishing off the list of people that we had on the trip that was canceled. And so we're keeping that up to speed to get things going. So we've got names of folks that we want to take on this trip so they can see it and see the immense amount of work that goes into what makes water come out of the tap that people just don't even realize. So, so the structure right behind here is off of the river, and that structure is an original structure that was built in 1919. Wow. And it's still standing, and they're looking to expand that. That's a causeway that they pull water off of the river, and it has to do with all of the salmon flows and a variety of the habitats up there that they try to make things happen. And it was just really interesting, all the maps that we got to see and all of these very scientific presentations and high-level data that was given to us. I'll tell you, It was a lot of information to consume. So I was really excited to see all of this and just understand the enormity of everything is that we're involved in. So there's a picture of the wood slats that you see that push forward, and when they open these, and they go and, I guess, open these things by hand. So one of the speakers there was talking about how he got to do that at one point in time, and they were getting ready to open the flows. So it was just really fascinating to know that people back in that far, 100 years ago, had the insight to prepare and start to look at these things and start to build facilities. This was when we went out on the Delta, out on boats, and we got stopped for a little bit for our bus. We couldn't do it. They were doing some quick maintenance thing on this. They have a lot of bridges that are of, low across there, and they have to raise them when they have different traffic going through there to get the boats and moving goods, cargo, whatever. And so I was so fascinated by the engineering and the timing and how they make all this stuff move. So I had to I got out of the bus. I'm like, well, hell, if we're going to stop here for a while, I'm off this bus. So I had to take pictures, and it was just fascinating to see how everybody, it's just part of the course of their day. They have stop signs, and they have crossing things that drop just like when you go to a train track, and everybody just kind of hangs out and waits, and it's just, okay, it's part of their normal course of business, and you have to kind of plan your day around that of when it happens, so you never know. These were the pontoon boats, the flat-bottom boats that we went out with USGS, and we spent almost the entire day out on the water, cruising around, and went and saw the different islands. We actually had lunch on one of the islands that Metropolitan has purchased, and went to the Duck Club to have lunch there and stop and get some more detailed information and have more presentations and things. Keep going. Here's the group, and we're loading up. They made us wear all those little flotation devices and vests and things. Yeah, it was just a thrill of my day. Keep going. We actually stopped at a lot of the marshes and looking at a variety of different wetlands and talking about what the importance of these were for just the aquatic life, the health and the welfare, and what it means to the Delta for the environmental impacts, and what it is that all of these groups are trying to coordinate and make happen for the fish habitat, and what that contributes to the overall health and the footprint of the Delta. So really fascinating, and I understand at that particular site too, somebody looked to the side and actually saw a beaver in the water, and then we couldn't, nobody else got to see him because he disappeared, so it was kind of entertaining. This is actually in the Delta, and I just wanted people to take a look at this. And this is, it's huge. It's a lot of water out there. And looking at one of the, I think this was Franklin, when they were looking at one of the turnout portions that we had to cross. So keep going. This was ponds. They put up some doughboy pools that they were doing these projects, and you see all of the, I don't know what, tule grass, whatever it is that they've got, and they were trying to figure out how to make these floating to protect the habitat and the plant life and bring carbon into for the fish life, and making these. And this is the demonstration garden that Met has actually put up, and you could go over there. Somebody needed to do a little maintenance and weed eating over there because it was kind of high and kind of prickly thistle and everything was working in there, but you could see how they were doing these to see if there made a difference in one growth technique versus another, and those were all the demonstration ponds that they were using to see how fast they could make those things happen. And the tour guide here, the guy that was speaking, a couple of them ended up going in there, and they actually moved this whole thing around in the pond. They're designed to do that so that they could float around and create more habitat and more carbon for the Delta. So it just fascinating, and I'll tell you, they gave me a lot more information than I could probably regurgitate ever in my lifetime. So I'll have to do this a couple more times to actually get it in my head. So is that the last picture?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So very, very educational. I would certainly recommend, like I said, we're getting ready to start those trips up again in the fall. Those are designed for education and for sharing with community and partners and agencies to have people understand the enormity of what it is that we're looking at and the challenges that we face in the future, and not just to look at it as pretty, So there's a lot involved with that. Went to the Night of Innovation last night. A couple staff, Tim Barr was there, Michael Hadley was there, so we went to that, and we saw that as part of the report in the Marietta stuff for their corridor of innovation. And I'll tell you what, this was filled with nothing but science nerds. These were all people that were talking about some really interesting creative projects and a lot of things that they're bringing to the bio community, the medical community, and doing a lot of different things. They were talking about genetic sequencing and different, it was really, really high-level stuff. So Marietta has been sponsoring this and doing this for, 6 years, is Tim? And so that's what they're trying to really bring in. They have their old city hall that has been dedicated to this purpose. So when the new city hall got opened, they actually, because the building was paid for, they have these folks in there to use the space to be able to have a lab space and working space and everything to work on these projects. So I'll tell you, if some of these take off, it's really going to put Marietta on the map as being innovative in the medical industry. And just the scientists that were in the room to talk, some of it you just kind of look at them and go, okay, that's really nice, and I hope it works out for you. So, it just very, very high-level individuals that were talking. So kudos to Marietta for getting that done, and for Patrick Ellis for sponsoring that event as well from the chamber, to get that tech group and what it means, especially after all of the things that have happened with COVID over the years and what we've looked at. So some of these testing processes that they even talked about were generated because of COVID. So just some interesting things going on. And then, yes, I also attended the WELL conference, so that was an interesting couple of days I went to. They had a variety of different topics that they talked about and had a number of panel discussions. The chairwoman from Metropolitan was there, so she was a keynote speaker, so we got to listen to her speak on Friday evening, so that was wonderful to have her there. And we heard from also one of the founders, Victor. I met him and had conversations with him. He's got some big plans, and Pam Tobin was there, the president of Aqua, so she was in attendance as well. And I was invited to dinner with these folks, so I got to spend dinner, and Joaquin Esquivel was there from the state board. So it was nice to sit across the table from him at dinner and have some conversation about the challenges that we face, certainly in the Inland Empire. And actually, I got to mention how Western is at the forefront of budgeted rates and how much our customers actually have already invested and conserved since 2012, and how it's kind of unfair that they're put in this category of something they've achieved a long time ago. So it was, and he appreciated the conversation. So it was really nice to sit down and have an informal conversation and really just get to put some things out there and talk about RENA numbers and our challenges, and hey, the state's creating all these mandates, but yet you're still asking water districts to reduce our water footprint out there. So I was appreciative to be invited to that dinner. It was really nice to have some conversations with these folks, and hopefully they got the message. So I also wanted to wish everybody a happy Father's Day for whoever in their life has acted as a father, and a lot of people fill a lot of roles. So happy Father's Day to all those fathers and people have been in that role, and wanted to make sure that y'all are aware that there is a Father's Day car show down in Marietta. That is a huge signature event. There are probably in excess, at least in the past, have been in excess of over 400 cars that have been up there at the park. It is a big deal. It is a big turnout. They've got some very fancy and very old and very expensive cars there. It usually has judges that go around for the different classes of cars and different year categories and different things. So it's open and free to the public. And that's down in Marietta on the day before Father's Day on Saturday. And then Marietta
Director,
doesn't
if I can just
necessarily.
add, sorry for interrupting, Western will be present at the car show. So if anybody does attend, you can look for our representative. We'll have Gregory from customer service there jointly and sharing drought information and other ways to save water. So look for Western when you're out at the car show.
Oh, fantastic. So that's great to hear. I'm so glad to hear that because it's such a huge turnout for that event. So many people come to that event. So I've gone to it for years and years and years and just love to look at the cars. And, you know, I always point at the one that I'd like to drive home, but never really happens. So that's okay. By the way, that would be a 63 Vet big block split window. Anybody wants to put that on the list. So, okay. So that's a good one. And then Marietta doesn't necessarily do a big 4th of July celebration. What they do, because the city became a city right before the 4th of July, they have their birthday bash where they shoot off fireworks and everything. So it's kind of nice if you want to spread out the wealth and go to something else. So really look forward to having their birthday bash come back in. It's nice that we're starting to roll out of COVID and folks are actually willing to go out and gather and be part of the community, and we get to share all those wonderful things with each other. So with that, I think that concludes my comments. So it's been a long couple of weeks, but certainly appreciate everyone's taking the time to listen to all that. Okay. Moving on to requests for future agenda items. Is there anything, because we've got a lot of stuff coming up, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Okay, first, I have to apologize because there were two really quick things that I forgot to mention during my director comments. One was to tag along on the solvethewatercrisis.com. I've been sharing that at the Hoop Valley Chamber meetings the last few months. I actually had a gentleman who approached me after the meeting and said, "Where do I sign up? How can I be a part of this?"
Good.
And I said, "Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there." So he was very enthusiastic and a business owner, wanted to know how he could participate. So that was great. And the other thing was I had the opportunity to speak on a panel for Leadership Riverside. And I don't know how many of you know, but Michael Hadley is in the, what is it? The greatest class, right? They always say that.
The greatest class.
The greatest class of 2022. Yeah, see? 2022, and has a graduation coming up here very quickly. So it was an honor to be able to serve on that panel. It was about being engaged and different ways and how you, sometimes what your journey is like to get there and those kinds of things. So, and it exposed me to more of what Leadership Riverside is all about, and it is quite a program. So I believe they're taking applications for next year until the 20th, so not much more time. But anyway, congratulations, Michael, for going through that, because from what I understand, it's very time intensive. And you learn a lot, and you make a lot of great connections and friendships, I'm sure, so.
Well, I wouldn't congratulate him yet. He's not graduated.
Well, okay, he's just about there. And then
The credits haven't been counted. Let's wait.
as far as an agenda item, as I was thinking about my question about ag to Ryan, that maybe in the future, nothing we have to do right away, but we could have just an agenda item surrounding the ag industries and maybe, not down in the weeds of it, but dialing into, say, northern, central, and southern California. And then Gracie's question to me, she kind of turned to me and said, "Yeah, you have some ag in your district," and I do. I have the Galeana Winery as well as the Vernola Farm, but we also have a lot of like backyard and front yard farmers that they call them. So I would be curious, again, not a rush, each of our districts, if we have access to data that would show like the percentage of our district that is covered in ag. I know, there's the Greenbelt and Riverside, and so anyway, would just be interesting for maybe a future item, and especially as if it doesn't rain, which we hope it does, but if it doesn't rain for a while, they're going to be squeezed even more, like everyone will be, but that's our food supply. So as you can tell, I'm a bit concerned. So that's it. Thank you.
I just have one question. So for the Solve the Water Crisis, if I attend the event for Corona, Corona is already a partner. The city of Corona is already a partner. Do we promote this at Corona City events, or?
Well, they do.
They are gonna be doing
It's a
it?
grassroots movement, so everyone that joins is empowered, asked, pleaded, prodded to be out there pushing it.
Okay.
So it's a grassroots movement. Our board members can go anywhere they want and talk about it. There's no restrictions. We hope that you get out and talk about it.
And if I
With
can
that
just
being
add,
said-
as you are doing that and there's growing interest in this movement, if they do go to our website, there's an opportunity to click to become a partner, and they can start receiving information and hearing updates about the initiative, and in the future, perhaps opportunities to get more involved.
And we also keep an active list on kind of behind the scenes of all the entities that we're talking to. So if a board member does go and meet with someone anywhere statewide, it would be helpful if you would let me know, because then we can do some follow-up activity with each of those entities. Don't have to, but we will follow up for you.
So I'm talking to Corona Chambers, so I will
Awesome.
follow up with you afterwards.
Sorry, now that, since everyone's asking, will there be, I think last time I was at Raglan, they asked like almost a specific question, like, are you guys pushing the state? And Michelle was there, but virtually, so I'm going tonight. If she's gonna be there in person, cool. If not, can I get more of these? Or?
Yep. Yeah, we have, Tammy has them.
Okay.
Mr. Gardner.
I would like to ask that we put on a future agenda sooner rather than later, the code committee's recommendations of what we've accomplished so far, so that the board can take action on that.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that was definitely the direction to give into staff on the,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. All right, moving on, we have information items that you can peruse at your leisure. We do have a closed session today with legal counsel for the general manager evaluation, and we will go ahead into closed session. We'll take a quick break as we transition and see everybody back there in about 6 minutes. Does that give you enough time? Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Okay, this.
That's not your item. You're done with that. I have it.
I am.
Yes, we did.
Each board handles it differently, so. Yeah. I just didn't want to step on their toes, so.
Now you just gotta do the work, right? All right. Well done.
I would need some more because I have to go to the Corona Chambers. On Friday.
Oh, the Good Morning.
The Good Morning, yeah. So I can put it on maybe each table.
Yeah.
And then have a conversation.
Okay.
Sarah upstairs, I think, things, but there's probably 3 or 4 sections that don't have. And I fill out outside of that, and then doing the whole classic project, which you figure out. Probably about starts in September. December, we work together. Yeah, well, work was going on. An adventure, but it's fun. You learn a lot. I'm all about having that flex day. I'm not. When is your graduation? That's a really, I mean, you mean a pretty.
Pretty good. I think it's a lot of nerves. I'm like, the whole thing is gonna be.
I know, it's like keeping up the
crazy.
energy,
Yeah.
right?
This summer, there's so much going on. On top of that, it's like, oh my goodness. It's such a learning experience. Like now next week I get to go to Sacramento, meet so many people. You know, part of it. So let's see how it goes.
I know we always like are monitoring the elections, you know, it's like in real time, I'm like refreshing, so, yeah.
It's good to be seen.
Hey, that's right. It's all learning experience.
Absolutely so.
The process.
Yeah, so. Thank you for the help this morning. Had to do the visual. And I know Jerry was shocked because half of that stuff came out. I saved all of it. Including
Hey, it's probably not today.
I know, they want it.
Yeah, in a month. Like, what? But,
Yes, I know.
so I'm gonna have to, we'll have to sit down with Karen and you and figure out your schedule. What dates, because they have a list of holiday. Like, what are you, like, your personal schedule, what's out? So just
Okay.
FYI, everybody needs to.
I have time after the meeting if you do. Randy and I already talked about a couple of things, and we're gonna call John Morris.
Okay.
Okay?
So I don't know how far it's been taken in terms of really studying it, whether it was a concept that was support, as model, something. In general,
Western as an entity has assigned capacity of 1.5. You're referring to that. There were routes. I'd say like, well, you have to sell it, but then I think you basically tapped out everything. You're all capacity that we have assigned to us has been allocated. Some of it's allocated. You could, I think there's a term to it. It's like,
I brought this up a few times in finance.
We should have this meeting with water resources and talk about it. My team had another train. You know, if I got another train, I don't want to.
And I'm not pushing for it, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Future.
Right, you've got Trump and the CDA water all coming in there, and we're kind of trying.
I'm going to suggest, this year, I'm going to suggest 5 months. Now, I'm asking this.
That was, because then the other thing, of course, you know, is that there's even more water.
Well, that's true. And that wasn't contemplated at the time.
Yeah, you can do it on anyone, really. Yeah, you can use this one. Are they done with this? Oh. If you log this one off and then log back in, I'll send you the temp password and the change. So she just enter that in and then it'll ask her to change the password. Yeah. And then make sure she knows, I don't know if she has it on her phone or not. If she's using it on her phone. And then I don't know where, we don't know where they're at. It doesn't look like it's checked in, so. Why would she do that? Not even like checking in correctly, so, I mean, now it says it's in New Jersey, so. Checking in. Why would she be, if she can have access to the cloud, she didn't recognize that address? I believe that's correct. Because we're not gonna get back. Comes up, I have it set. If it comes up in that other software, which, I mean, it hasn't checked into that software in a couple months, it looks like. So, right. But if they turn it on for some reason and it comes up, it's programmed to white. If it does do that, if they start it up, so. Assuming they're gonna do that at some point, because why would you take it if you're not gonna use it? When it comes up, if it checks into that software, you know, the Meraki software is horrible, I don't like it, so sometimes it checks in, sometimes it doesn't, that type of stuff. Some of them are good, some of them are not. I think it depends on how old the device is. Is it? It might not, maybe that, I wonder if that's their old one that's on Meraki. Well, I don't know, I mean, it's broken. As long as we change the password and all that, it'll be fine. So I'll send you that. Yep.
Okay, we are reporting out of closed session, and before we go ahead and get a report from legal counsel as regard to closed session, we'll go ahead and take roll call for the board.
Thank you. Director Roten.
Here.
Director Rizvi.
Here.
Director Gardner.
I am here.
Director Torres.
Present.
President Dinstedt.
I am here, thank you.
President Dinstedt, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. This time, we'll go ahead and hear from legal counsel on a report of our closed session.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, there is no reportable action from closed session.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, legal counsel. Have we hit all of our points on today's agenda, Mr. Miller?
We are.
Okay.
Staff's completed with their reports.
Great, thank you very much. Our next meeting for this board will be on July the 6th, so happy Father's Day, happy 4th of July to everybody. We have an extra week break in between meetings, so enjoy that. And our next regularly scheduled meeting with this board is on Wednesday, July the 6th at 9:30 in the morning. We will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.